The planets have aligned, and once again, the prophecy has come true. That's right, folks. It's time for another episode of the Roundtable Rethink podcast with me, your trusty host, Uncle Paddy, joined every week by twin brother and spare parts bin, Andy, the asshole.
Woo! Come on now.
And of course, back from the touring season and in the seat between now and Christmas, the sage himself, Stevie Tel Avivi.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Okay, this week we'll be discussing OpenAI's Dev Day and the implications for businesses everywhere. We'll also be discussing Gemini Enterprise, Google's amazing new agent building platform. And finally, we'll be asking the question, are we headed to an AI crash? Is all this money about to go poof, poof?
It always does.
All right, boys. Well, it's been another fascinating couple of weeks in AI. The news cycle just never seems to run out on new things to present new challenges and new things to learn. So tell me this, before we get into all the AI news, do you want to talk about the Roundtable Rethink on the road?
Oh, we have to.
Okay.
So, last week we were invited as kind of keynote speakers, you would say, to the OPI Europe event.
European Summit.
Down just kind of off Marble Arch in London. It was a fascinating few days. There was representatives from basically every manufacturer and distributor across the office products industry, tens of billions of dollars worth of manufacturers in the room. And it was great to really hear some of the challenges that they're having in terms of AI implementation. We had about an hour on the main stage. We hosted a couple of roundtables afterwards where we were able to kind of triage and Q&A people's concerns. And I don't know. I think my big takeaways from the event. So I think your instincts are right. The thing that came across powerfully is that everyone is struggling with overwhelm, I would say, is the main challenge. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, and I think my big takeaway for the event was that people are definitely craving seeing rather than hearing, right? Yeah. They're struggling to connect the words to things that they understand and things that they can visualize. And one of the best bits of feedback I got after the event, and you were there, Stephen, when the lady walked up, she went, I've been listening to people talking about agentic AI for the last year. And the context here is we actually built a simple agent live on the stage. And she went, and you just brought that to life for me. I finally now understand what people mean when they say agentic AI. So I think the seeing as believing thing was a really important part. I think it just confirmed a bias that I already had for that type of thing. I think people are kind of done with the words. I think all the AI conferences sound like each other now. We just got a bunch of people reporting numbers from fucking Deloitte and, Accenture have said 48.6% of companies are experimenting with AI. Deloitte are saying 29. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. What does it mean for me is the question everybody's asking. And so I think getting very practical, bringing some of this stuff to life for people is an important part of the next phase of educating the population into what AI is and what its capabilities are.
I think the bit that I really loved, and it was, again, a big shout out to OPI because it was wonderful that they invited us down, but it's always fascinating to see into another industry. Whichever silo you're in, you think that your silo, the law, entertainment, that's where the problems are. But you realise when you speak to other people, the problems are just the same.
Yeah.
The actual mechanisms are maybe slightly different. And I think the overwhelming thing, and even my admission, my name's Stephen, and I'm a recovering
lawyer,
was I probably have not been as active in some of the implementation as others have been, as you two have been. And I came away from that conference with a real thirst. It was seeing it, and it comes back to something we said at the conference, we say in the pod, the only way to deal with this stuff is to get your hands on it and get your hands dirty.
100%. Get down and dirty with the tools.
And I even found
it just makes it all come together in your head.
And I even found in the round tables afterwards, once we came off the main stage, that just been able to walk people through visually the anatomy of a GPT, how it's nailed together, the anatomy of a basic workflow, watching all the nodes being stitched together in real time, you could really see the synapses connecting in people's minds and just connecting it back to the concepts that they've heard on stage from previously. So it was a great few days, thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd say overwhelm's a big issue. I would say there's almost a psychosis around safety and security as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Some of which I think is unjustified, certainly at the model level. But I felt like that was a big concern for a lot of the guys in the room as well. So we did a bit of entertaining. Hopefully, we definitely did a bit of education. But for me,
it was good fun. It was a reason
great.
for us to hang out and drink 2 bottles of red wine on the train on the way down to London.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Janet, for having us. It was wonderful.
Thanks for
Thoroughly
having
enjoyed
us.
it.
And lovely dinner at Nobu later that evening, and for Andy and Steve, a shisha in a Lebanese street cafe somewhere near the hotel.
Just after your kebab.
Guzzling our body weight in expensive raw fish before guzzling our body weight in cloudy shisha.
That was a good trip. It was good fun. We should do more of that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
It was great. Roundtable Rethink on the road. All right, Andy, why don't you get us kicked off this week with the docket? So there was a tedious link back to the OPI event. So this was a head scratcher for me. So we're going on stage at 11 o'clock the following morning.
Yeah.
And then the night before, OpenAI launched this dev day and launch a whole bunch of new features that have me questioning the presentation we're about to deliver.
Yeah.
So then I'm up to 1 o'clock in the morning revising and changing slides because I actually don't feel super confident in some of the things that I used to recommend and some of the strategies that I think would be enduring based on what happened at 10 o'clock the previous night. And I only tell that story to try and convey to people who don't have a front row seat to this thing. The speed in which information is changing is devastating, and it does feel almost impossible to keep up to speed with it when you're geeks like us who don't do anything else except
You're so right, by the way. I was literally sitting with my phone in my hands trying
I was speaking to you at 11 o'clock that night in bed going, have you just seen the OpenAI
when
dev
you
day
messaged
stuff?
me, I literally had my phone in my hand setting my alarm for the morning, and then of course when his message came in I was like, oh Christ, that's that punted. So another hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes spent watching keynotes and writing notes and stuff. And you're right, actually it did force us to augment slightly the presentation for the following day.
Yeah.
There's something about the old quote about moving forward. It will never change. It will never change as slowly as this again. It will only get faster.
Yeah.
It's the speed is accelerating. There is no pause. Again, it's back to the overwhelm thing.
Yeah. There's no let up in it. And honestly, this is why there's no better time to just start. The tool set could change, the operating model could change, but the fundamental skills you develop by using the tools will be enduring, and they'll be applicable and they'll be transferable to whatever new modalities come down the line. That's why, even though and some people say to us at the conference, hey, we think it's changing this month. Should we leave it another year before we get involved in this? And we were like, no.
Nope, definitely not.
And I think as the idiot in the room, as the least technical of the three of us, any moving forward is only going to make the tools simpler. The difficulty is, as far as I can get my head around it just now, it's the range of the tools. So if you don't understand how to use a basic chisel, how will you ever understand how to use a power drill?
Yeah.
So it starts with something simple, but the ability to get more and more powerful things is just going to get better and better.
And so let's bust into OpenAI's Dev Day event. So that's only their second ever Dev Day since their inception as a company.
Just crazy to think.
The first one looked like one of those Bin Laden poorly lit hostage videos, like Death to America videos from a cave. It was so poorly produced. This one, they went up market. They tried to do the whole kind of big Apple type,
an Apple event.
an Apple type kind of product launch thing, and it was very impressive. And so there was a few big products launched at that. Before I go on to explain each one of them individually, the kind of TLDR is there was a bunch of new products launched, and what this actually did was OpenAI have kind of shown their hand in terms of the direction of travel and what they're basically trying to become for users and businesses moving forward. And so I'll go on to explain in a wee bit more detail what each of those products were, and then I'll tie it all up at the end in terms of what I think the implications are for us as consumers, as users of the OpenAI product, and importantly as busy professionals and business owners. So the first product that they launched was the Apps SDK, right? In fact, before we go into that, let me just take one step back. The first thing they actually did at the event is they just did a bit of level setting in terms of where they are, right? So the current run rate for the company at the moment is they're at 800 million weekly active users and growing violently from that base number. And the one that blew my mind is they're processing 6 billion tokens per minute. 6 billion tokens per minute. Now, to put that into context, that's 3 quadrillion tokens a year. A quadrillion is a 1,000 trillion. It's a 1 followed by 15 zeros. And to make that real for you, all human speech globally over a 12-month period represents about 40 to 50 billion tokens. So they reckon they're 24 months away in terms of a run
billion
rate.
Tokens?
Sorry?
You said 40.
Quadrillion, sorry.
Right, okay.
So all human speech is 40 to 50 quadrillion tokens combined annually. So they reckon they're 24 months away from being able to match the output of all human speech globally. So we're having to invent new fucking words to actually to contextualize the magnitude and the scale at what we're dealing with at the moment.
This won't be the only time the word quadrillion comes up in this conversation, but we won't get into that right now.
1,000 trillion, 1 followed by 15 zeros, right? So that's the kind of level set. Is there anything you want to add to that just before I move on?
I wanted to say what a token was. Think about it as a small word, like a 3-letter word, you know, a the or an are.
They are. Okay, so the first product that they announced was the Apps SDK. So for the first time, they're opening up in a serious way the 800 million weekly active users to third-party app developers. Now, the app SDK, very importantly, is built on the MCP, which is the new kind of open protocol that all of these things are developed on. And the amazing thing about that is that it gives app developers full control, not only over the back-end logic, but also the front-end UX. So they can create, using MCP, they can create these beautiful visual experiences inside the ChatGPT stream. And so what that's done is it's made it possible for you to launch, render, and interact with your favorite apps inside a ChatGPT without leaving the system. So take the 8 to 10 to 12 apps that you deal with for commerce, for travel, for shopping, for booking holidays and stuff. You don't need to leave your ChatGPT account now. You can actually launch them all inside your ChatGPT account. So the demos that they showed was Spotify, which Paddy's literally got on the screen here. So one of the
pull it up, Jamie.
Aye. So they were basically in the chat and they said, create me a 45-minute concentration playlist. I've got some important work to do. And it said, would you like me to use Spotify for this? They said yes. Launches Spotify inside the stream. Beautiful UX. Comes up with a playlist and they can actually play it and interact with it inside of ChatGPT. So they've got some launch customers that they've piloted this with, Spotify being one of them. Other notable names on there at the moment are Booking.com, Uber, DoorDash, and OpenTable, and Instacart. Zillow. So that was one of the other demos they did here. So what we're really saying here is there's no reason for you to leave your ChatGPT account if you want to just interact. If you want to hail a taxi, if you want to order some food, if you want to get some entertainment, all of these apps will be available inside of ChatGPT, and you can either render them in stream, or they've actually got this new feature which is called full screen, which takes over the entire screen itself and gives you that kind of iOS immersive experience that you'd get on the native app on the phone. So think about the implications of that. Think about the implications for Apple. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were the only game in town. Think about the implications for business. We as business owners are going to have to start thinking about, not only do we need to create experiences now for iOS and Android, we might need to start thinking about creating experiences for ChatGPT as well, because that's actually where most of the consumers are.
And the way that you summon these things, you just mention them in.
So you ampersand them in. You hit the ampersand button.
Well, you mention them in. You just go at Expedia.
Yep.
Give me hotels in Chicago with a king bed for under 250 quid a night. And then inside the ChatGPT interface, you'll get a beautiful Expedia UI that's tailored and optimized for the chat modality. We're seeing it here up on the screen, so it's easy for us to visualize. And so you're getting the Expedia experience inside your ChatGPT interface.
So I'm assuming there'll be two issues moving forward. Was there any indication what the pricing model, as in what they're going to take off the developers, or is that too early? Because obviously that was a big revenue. That's where Apple gets a lot of revenue.
So you have to believe it is. You have to believe that that's part of their monetization strategy, because they'll be looking at the revenue that the App Store generates for Apple and thinking, oh, I'll have a piece of that as well.
And so I think right now that they're only they're publishing an SDK. They have picked a handful.
There's about a dozen integrations.
Basically taking all the top apps from the App Store and blessed them with a approved, we work alongside you to develop this.
But they're opening it up to all third-party app developers.
I don't think they're advertising any pricing at this point, but you can be sure that down the line there's a revenue share model coming here.
And he did let something slip as well in terms of how they'll monetize it, which is they'll recommend. So if you're in stream and you're just having a chat with a model and you say, I'm traveling to Dubai in March, can you create me a 7-day itinerary? It'll say, yeah, here's a 7-day itinerary. Have you booked your flights and accommodation yet? Would you like me to invoke Expedia and do that for you? And guess what? Expedia will be paying a fortune to be recommended to you as their preferred travel partner or
Talk
whatever.
about intent, these intent workflows, like when somebody knows that level of intent, being able to bring in the right partner at the right time, that's potentially got much bigger monetary than just feeding somebody junk ads that are loosely connected to whatever query you made.
And without jumping to the end and my little bit at the end, what you begin to realise is when you look back at all of the evolution of software to date, it's all been about building market and making the money way, way at the back end. Almost none of the companies that we are household names today ever made money. Amazon only moved into profit in the last 5 or 10 years, probably less.
100%.
So,
but think about discoverability as well, right? If you want to get an app on the App Store, you need to find the app, then you need to download the app, then you need to configure the app. Every app that gets through the submission process in ChatGPT can just be invoked into your screen through adding it in. Mm-hmm. So think what that means for discoverability. I mean, it's incredible. So I thought that was a really powerful drop there. And again, open it up to all third-party app developers later in the year for submissions and approvals. So we'll see what more comes of that. The second product that I want to move on to was their agent kit. So this is their enterprise product. And this is broken down into 3 foundational products within the category. Product number 1 is Agent Builder. So Agent Builder is essentially a set of nodes or building blocks that's designed to help you build, deploy, and optimize any agentic workflow. For anybody relatively technical out there, they'll already have heard of products like NAN. Stephen, your new best friend, NAN.
Gone down that rabbit hole already.
And so what they're doing is they're taking these kind of open source products that have, these kind of no-code products that you can stitch the nodes together to create workflows, and they're actually assimilating that capability into ChatGPT through this agent kit. And this is the one feature, Agent Builder. The next feature in Agent Kit is called Chat Kit. And that basically gives you simple, embeddable chat interface that you can use to create these amazing chat experiences on your website or on your app. Literally widgets that you can create that you can customize and literally put on your app. Again, hugely disruptive. A lot of these things you have to pay third-party SaaS services for, Chatbase, so on and so forth. You can configure them. Your chatbot on your website's not just a chatbot. It's a two-way chat interface, but it can also be the starting point for an agentic workflow that hangs off the back of it. And it all stitches together under this agent kit toolkit that you're accessing. And then the final part of this is evals. Evals is the most amorphous concept in AI, which is how do you evaluate if any AI implementation's working? How do you basically, if an agent
what does good look like?
Yeah, what does good look like?
That? Yeah.
So this is a feature dedicated to measuring the performance of individual agents. So you get automatic prompt optimization. You get data sets to help you analyze individual agent performance. And this is really important because Paddy and I were talking about this earlier today. Evals and trying to assess the impact of AI is like punch and smoke. Like, how do you really quantify 1,000 micro improvements in 200 people's workflows and outputs every day. It's very, very difficult.
I come back to what Paddy said at the conference last week, that you're going to generate 20 and 30% improvements across your company, all of which the staff are going to go, thank you very much. Yes, I'm busy today. And actually pushing those improvements through to the bottom line is going to be the real challenge for the next 12 and 24 months. Yeah.
So there was two other big announcements. One was, what's the lubrication layer? What's the connective tissue between all these apps and commerce? It's payments. Mm-hmm. So they've launched one-click Stripe, beautiful Stripe integration into ChatGPT, which makes it seamless to purchase products and services online. And so that's a huge step forward because it already does web browsing, it already does shopping. The missing connective tissue there was payments. So they're now integrated payments into ChatGPT as well. The final one, I'm going to defer to Paddy's coding expertise. So they did a huge update of their Codex coding model. Now, AI and LLMs, for all the things that they're good at, there's nothing that they're better at than coding, and there's nothing that they've improved quicker at than the process of coding. And Codex is a major update, so it's now got this agentic layer that you can interact with. So instead of physically hacking away to build code inside a Codex, as a lot of these themes are building out now, you've got this agentic tool that you can speak to and say, build me this, do this, make it look like this, make it do like that, and it'll run off and do all the interpretation and actually interact with the coding model itself, so you don't need to hack away at the code manually. And Paddy, maybe just break down a wee bit as a resident coder amongst us. Why does AI lend itself so well to the task of coding, and why is it improving so rapidly on that front?
Well, I mean, they're large language models. They're optimized for dealing with language, right?
Yeah.
And every coding language, clues in the name, it's a language and it has a syntax and it has a structure, and LLMs are just awesome at being able to understand and parse that kind of stuff.
I'm going to also jump in here because actually I would say that the reason why it works so well with computing, language as in the English or any other spoken language, is open to so much interpretation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interpretation, whereas mathematical language, that's why maths is so pure.
It's so binary, yeah.
So basically there's much less confusion when it comes to programming. It's a clear A-B answer.
It's a language and it has a syntax, and that is really the two things that make it extremely good.
And some of the demos were amazing. Really, I mean, Sam was talking about it, just finished a 24-hour autonomous run where it's building code, it's questioning assumptions, it's testing the new features that it's built, it's finding bugs in them, it's going back, it's retesting them again, fixing them, and then doing the pull requests when all the checks and balances have been made. And so huge leap forwards in terms of Codex, and they reckon out of all the models that Codex has now kind of jumped to the top of the leaderboard in terms of agentic coding.
I would say that's probably fair. Like for the longest time, the Claude family of models were the only game in town for coding. And this is why it's important to retain some optionality. You don't want to go all in on a specific ecosystem or a specific model, because the truth is it's not clear who the winners will be over time.
And then Grok was coding like a champion as well.
Grok was the consuming and producing most of the tokens, but I think more tokens than all coding models combined on the open.
But there was a big price.
Platform.
There was a big price differentiation there.
So here's what I would say about coding. Here's the big insight that came out of Codex. What's very obvious now, and you don't have to guess this or read between the lines, they're now saying this in interviews that they're delivering. This generation of models is not able to be fully exploited because we're so horribly compute constrained. That's the big thing everybody needs to understand, right?
Yeah.
All these models have limitations on them. Their context windows are the size they are. The amount of output tokens they're optimized is the size they are because we don't have the compute. A user base of 800 million users to produce more tokens than we've got available to us today, right? So everything's horribly constrained. If we had 10x the compute, the existing models without any new intelligence or any new capabilities or improvement would already be fantastically more useful to us if we could just fucking run them longer.
Yeah.
But that's massively token intensive. So think about intelligence as only being constrained by compute. I'm telling you right now, the next version of models is already on the shelf. They're baked, ready to go. We just don't have the compute to run them. why do you think when one of these guys does something, the other guy launches their version of that the following day?
Yeah.
Because they've all been on the shelf for 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's just like, well, who's going to go first?
Yeah.
And then that forces everybody else to go. So Gemini 3's baked. It was supposed to come out last week. It might come out this week. It'll almost certainly, if it doesn't come out this week, come out next week.
Yeah.
But it's been sitting on the shelf. Everybody in the background, the thing that we don't see as consumers is in the background, everybody's frantically
frenetically racking
begging,
servers. Yeah.
borrowing GPUs to rack capacity to run inference.
Yeah.
That's so we're horribly compute constrained. And frankly, and I think this is something everybody will recognize, this is why the ChatGPT service is so horribly unreliable right now. It really is a crapshoot depending on what time of the day you use it in. I mean, it's
100%.
unbelievably slow in the middle of the day.
And it actually punks out in every 3 or 4 ingestions of a fucking basic prompt.
Craps out and then you hit refresh and put the same thing in and hit go and then it'll complete this time. That's because in the background, the compute layer is
It's
just
been
bouncing off the
throttled
rev
all the
limiter
time.
at all times.
It's also one of these things, I suppose, to think about it logically for a second. Improvements come through computing power, basically effectively creating better
Moore's
program.
law created the computer revolution.
But effectively, it's now computers creating the system, creating the next version of the system.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the constraints that we've got. It doesn't go to sleep. It doesn't take an hour to think about something. It's running cycles in milliseconds. So actually, it's completely obvious that the cycles of improvement should now be days, not, it's more about the volume that it's crunching. But yeah, the speed of which the models are going to move forward are going to be limited to the speed of electrons rather than the speed of humans thinking
And
about
power
things.
generation.
And
But
power.
we'll-
Sam was saying in an interview earlier today that I watched that they'll finish this year with 2 gigawatts of data center capacity. They'll finish the following year with 10 gigawatts of data capacity. They have 30 gigawatts of data capacity commissioned. And they think today, if they could get the 30 gigawatts and just somehow magically make that happen, they would be able to saturate it quite easily just by allowing codecs to run for a week
3 weeks,
rather than an hour
Than
or 30
24,
minutes. Allowing these background tasks, these agents. Think about where compute's headed, right? You're getting a glimpse into where compute's headed. And by the way, in 18 months' time, it's going to completely invert. So what happens right now is you have an IDE, you have a development environment like Cursor or VS Code or JetBrains, and then you hook that up to somebody's model. So you say, right, inside my development environment, I'm going to use Claude Code, or I'm going to use ChatGPT 5 Codex. And then you go, and where most of the value is captured in this today is 2 things: inline edits and tab completion. So inline edit is where you literally highlight some code and then say, do something with this code. And it just takes that action on the 16 lines of code that you edited. Think about tab completions as like type ahead for software development. So you start typing out a function and then you get 2 lines in and then it just generates the next 16 lines of code automatically and you hit tab to just accept that.
Like auto-completing your text
like
messages.
Autocomplete for your text messages. That's where the overwhelming majority of productivity is captured using AI coding tools. It's inline edits and it's tab completions. But it's a proactive effort, right? We've got to prompt the AI for something, we've got to get something back, or we've got to type lines of code in to get more lines of code, or we've got to say, take an edit on this. When we have enough compute and you have 1 or 2 more revs of these models, it's going to completely invert. So you will no longer have to prompt the AI. The AI will come to you. There'll be a site So if you want an example, and we'll get back to why agents and workflows are going to destroy and swallow all of software. Mm-hmm. So if you want an example of what the future looks like, and I'm talking about a 12 to 18 month timeline, you will have a dozen agents constantly combing through your code base 24 hours a day, nonstop in a loop. You'll have a site reliability engineer agent that's constantly 24 hours a day looking for bugs, refactors, opportunity, vulnerabilities, and proactively fixing them and sending you the pull request.
While you sleep.
I've identified all these things in the code base. Here's all the pull requests. You accept the ones that you want to accept while I get back to work here. You'll then have another agent that's solving some other problem. You'll have a front-end agent, a back-end agent. I can think of 20 different agents that
you'll have a feature ideas agent that actually comes to you proactively with new features that you could add to the site.
A virtual product manager agent that goes, right, I've looked at the code base. I know all the other products that look like ours. Here's the next things we should go and build. Oh, and by the way, I've already written the code for them. Go ahead and click here to accept.
I think the thing going back to the data centers, because it's really easy to start talking about quadrillion bits and whatever else. There isn't actually, so you talk about a 1 gigawatt data center. How many of those are there at the moment? We're not even there yet.
There's a few gigawatts, but there's like you're talking, and you could count them on one hand.
Yeah. So basically, it sounds easy to say 1 gigawatt, but I don't think people get a real sense of how much computing that is. Yeah. So to double that or to quadruple it, so again, it's Moore's law, but we're on that steep curve, and there's a lot of climb yet to go.
A couple of closing thoughts on OpenAI before we move on to the Gemini Enterprise event. Thought number one, I thought OpenAI across that presentation really revealed their hand in terms of what they want to be in the future, and it's clear now that they're shooting to be the user experience for your personal and professional life. So the idea is all of the apps that you use for your everyday life, for entertainment and shopping and commerce and travel and all food delivery and all sorts of stuff you'll do inside OpenAI. If you're a busy professional or you're a small business owner, all the productivity tools that you need to enhance and run and improve your business or your work over time will be done within OpenAI. And so that really is the end state, them being the user interface. So you'll have one consequential app on your iPhone, which will be ChatGPT, and you'll open that up and you'll access everything for your personal and professional life.
That's the vision. Whether that becomes true,
that's what they were shooting for.
They want to be the operating system.
I love getting old. Do you know what this reminds me of? AOL. AOL, I think, got sold again recently. Yeah. But this is basically just AOL all over again. One system in which everything exists. Yeah. And you don't go outside AOL because you don't need to. Yeah. And basically that's what ChatGPT
And my final thought is any naysayers out there that were like, ChatGPT can't sell enough tokens to really generate the money to pay for all this compute and pay for all this build it and stuff. The business models are already starting to present. From selling tokens through the API to the latest one that Sam announced the other day is for enterprise customers. You'll eventually pay per generation on Sora 2, which is their video generation model. So you'll sign up to an enterprise package where you pay maybe $1 per generation and your marketing team will pound out 100 generations a day, and there's £100 a day in revenue from one company. They'll take money off app developers. They'll take a vig off your payments. There's probably tens or hundreds of billions of pounds in the future going to be transacted through OpenAI. They'll get a vig off that with your Stripe fees. And finally, they'll charge you for advertising either through recommending you the app inside the context of that chat thread or just overtly advertising in stream. So anybody that thinks that they're not going to be able to conceive of the monetization strategy to cover the cost of this build out, it's clear now. Yeah. They're coming for the money. They're coming for all of it.
You have the chicken and egg problem, right? Yeah. You go and get the user base. Yeah. So you go into the red to the tune of $20 billion a year. What are they? Revenue, $14 billion?
15 billion.
Losing $20 billion a year. So you go massively red. You acquire all the customers in the world. Right now, they've got like 1/10 or 1/7 of all people on Earth using ChatGPT. So they've developed it. They're nearly 1 billion users, right? They developed the user base because you drove the cost of token. You drove the cost of tokens down.
Yeah.
You forced everybody to go down alongside you. You're well capitalized enough where you can afford to sustain that for a period of time. Yeah. So now you've got the user base, because nothing can happen without the user base. Now all the business models start to emerge. Yeah. You're seeing the early signs of that.
100%.
By the way, if they just get the coding thing right, if they become the world's de facto coding model, there's enough, coders are very expensive. There's enough money tied up in coding alone
to double the revenues for here,
to double, triple code. I don't know, 10x. There's just a huge amount of money in that one use case. Yeah. And so if you take agents looking at your website, running agents all day, writing code, fixing bugs, and then take that and doing it in a loop infinitely, and then take that same analogy and apply it to every piece of knowledge work in the economy. That's what's going to be happening.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have an agent that's writing marketing ideas for you all day and all night. You're going to have an agent that's refining your campaigns
and all
day
these
and
new
all night.
workflows that are going to be running inside a companies powered by their agent builder is all going to be consuming tokens as well.
I've been telling people for 18 months and everybody kind of looks at me like a fucking Labrador. When you talk to a dog and it tilts its head like it's trying to work out what you're saying. Agents and workflows, and now you're starting to... 18 months I've been saying this. Agents and workflows are going to swallow the software industry.
Yeah.
And we're now seeing examples of that, and every one of these hyperscalers believe it.
Yeah.
Because Google came out with their platform, Microsoft have now got their agent building platform. Everybody believes that agents, narrowly focused agents strung together in a workflow can replace a lot of the software industry.
So in short, I used to be worried about the financial stability of the business model. I'm not anymore.
Do you know what it makes me think though? And I maybe sent you guys a message about this. Where does it leave room for startups? Like,
well,
it makes me like in my most nihilistic fucking fever dreams, I just go, where is a world where startup, like, does everything just become a feature inside ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok?
Here's something I keep saying. I think that occupations are now limited, opportunities are limitless. Mm-hmm. The question is only how long will any opportunity last for? So it sounds to me as if you have a creative idea, it's never been easier or cheaper to make that creative idea, to monetize it. The difficulty would be within days, weeks, months, seconds,
hours.
Yeah.
The system. So the question is going to be how much will OpenAI or any of the platforms allow you to create and develop a product before they jump on the Amazon idea.
Yeah.
Amazon lets you sell whatever it wants to let you sell. If it has the data to crush you,
it's
will
scary.
OpenAI be the same?
It's scary how much everything's bifurcating into marketplaces, and ChatGPT just might be the biggest marketplace. What is the future value of your crummy fucking product or service website that you're trying to drive people to locally? Maybe in the future, the smartest thing you could do is just put a data stream sitting in front of an MCP server that renders a JSON inside of ChatGPT, and everybody's products just get streamed inside of the ChatGPT app.
Yeah.
For discoverability.
The reason I knew that about the OpenAI agent builder was the headlines on all the news sites were OpenAI just puts
put a million
startups out of business.
And of course, they didn't.
We were just talking about Lindy AI and this whole flavor of tools that have spun up. It just seems like, how are they going to compete? Like, how is independent agent building platforms, workflow platforms going to compete largely when the hyperscalers with tens of thousands of engineers are throwing the kitchen sink at agent and workflow platforms?
What I've realized again as a low power user and just starting my journey on NAN is that almost any problem I can imagine, I can solve.
Yeah.
You know, so the agentic power of these systems allows me to go, oh, I can fix my problem. So that pain point idea, when someone else, as long as you can define your pain point, then you can probably do an awful lot of work to solve it. Or if you can't, for a $5, someone else will do
There's
it.
a soft parallel for this, and it is kind of Microsoft in the 80s and 90s. Like, every time any kind of SaaS product got traction, Microsoft would just do a shit kicker version of their feature set, throw it into Office for free, and then that person, went out of business because they had a massive install base. This could be the kind of AI version of that.
Yeah. It's the, again, Amazon scenario that they were the biggest with the Amazon services. They've got the biggest auction tank. They can effectively keep going until everyone else goes bust.
Cheap capital.
Yeah.
All right.
Alrighty. So the big takeaway was their agent platform, coding model,
apps, payments, all starting to sort of come together. The operating system for your personal and professional life.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, much on the same vein, and again, back to this idea that all these guys have this stuff sitting on the shelf. Google announced their version of the same thing 24 hours later, and they called it Gemini Enterprise. Now, I'll be honest with you. When I saw the OpenAI agent platform, it did look like a bit of a toy. And then when we played with it at the event, just before we did the roundtables, it was buggy as all shit. And a lot of the reports that we're seeing coming in now are, it's beta. It's no way is it ready for prime time. Now, they'll fix all that stuff. But it feels like it maybe came out a bit too early and a bit too rough. So Google launched what I would call the grown-up version of this. And you don't put enterprise in the name of something unless it's enterprise ready to go. Because you're really putting a target on your back. And honestly, it did look like the grown-up, battle-tested, well-put-together version of this idea. The thing that made it a little bit different is it came with a ton of third-party integrations. And so here's the problem, right? You've got an agent platform and you can have workflows where you utilize agents, and it's all useless unless you can connect it to where your business data is, okay? And the truth is, the horrible truth about software is we all look at the apps, but here's the apps that run the world. Horrible, clunky, old, 30-year-old ERP systems, okay? They're usually running in a server in a cupboard somewhere in the customer's office. And so these agent platforms and these workflows can only be useful if you can actually connect them to where your data lives. Because if you can't, they're a party trick, but they don't solve any real problems. And so what I saw from Google, which was different to what I saw from OpenAI, was they actually have a ton of third-party integrations already done on the platforms where work gets done. So Workday for HR stuff, Salesforce, SAP, which runs most of the big companies in the world. So they've went down that route where they've built pre-baked connectors, MCP servers for some of these very big ERP systems, B2B apps where your actual business data lives. That's the thing that was very different about their approach to the
OpenAI one, where approach. Everything had to be vertically integrated into ChatGPT.
The other thing that I thought was really cool was they've came up with a new payments protocol in order for agents to pay other agents.
Which is so fucking satanic.
Okay, so now you're starting to see the dystopian future where your agents are just off doing things, and they agents will maybe use other agents to get that thing done, and they agents will take payments from other agents that are offering.
That robot takes a backhander to.
So they've developed their own payments protocol in order to stand over the transaction of agents interacting and paying other agents for services, and it was really quite something. So you're seeing a whole bunch of ideas converging here. It's very clear to me that the 4 or 5 companies that are going to dominate the future landscape of software all believe, like I do, that agents and workflows are going to basically be incredibly disruptive to the entire software industry. And they're all building out their platforms now to make sure they're staking their claim in that business. And these are early attempts. You can expect these things to improve massively in the next 3 to 6 months to grow in capability. As the third-party network of connectors gets built out, that's what's going to make these things even more powerful. But I still maintain that the key challenge for this, by the way, I don't think this puts like workflow designers and stuff like that out of business, because the key skill here is A, understanding what to automate, and B, is figuring out how to connect these capabilities to your actual business data. And that's where most companies still come unstuck with this whole thing. So I think there'll still be a layer. And by the way, Google went out their way to make space in the presentation for the Deloittes and for the big systems integration companies, the Accentures, to support those companies in this model. There'll be implementation services provided by Deloitte in order for your business to be able to leverage these capabilities.
So just before you go on, just to double click on that point. So how are companies hydrating these kind of GPTs and prompts with their company information at the moment? They're having to export it from where it lives into documentation, into somewhere else. Yeah.
Whereas in an ideal world, you would just connect these agents to your company data, but that involves being able to create that connection. Yeah. And that's where some of this falls over. But that will all get solved over time.
And I know we've covered this before, but can we put the world's mind at rest one final time? Confidentiality, data, stealing people's data. We heard it at the conference. I hear it constantly in the legal profession. Is there a problem?
Listen, if you use the enterprise version of ChatGPT or the enterprise version of Gemini, they have all the safety certificates, right? They're SOC 2 compliant, they're GDPR compliant, like they've got all the compliance certification, but also
encrypted up the wazoo for data in transit and
they
at rest.
explicitly say that they do not train on your conversations. And that's the main thing that people are really concerned about, right? Are you going to take all this very sensitive information that we're conversing back and forth and use that in order to make the model? They explicitly say that they do not do that on the Teams and enterprise versions of that product.
You're at way more danger of a staff member doing something wrong with your data than you are.
It's back to hallucination again.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like AI being held to this impossible standard. Just look at Salesforce.com. They had a massive data breach.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was their fault. I think there's some commentary that might have been connected to a third-party service, and any customers who were leveraging that third-party service were exposed. But you've got a ransomware group who's threatening to publish millions of Salesforce customer records on Monday if they don't pay the ransom, and Salesforce have said they won't pay the ransom. So the best companies in the world with the most sophisticated infrastructures in the world are being caught out with this stuff every day. Look at Marks and Spencer's.
So I think it is overplayed. I really do. I think the concern's overplayed for big businesses. It was almost a psychosis at that conference, by the way. Like, you could tell people were incredibly nervous about safety and security.
Yeah, Salesforce currently facing an extortion attempt following the theft of nearly 1 billion customer records from dozens of its client organizations. A group identified as Scattered Hunters allegedly comprised of members from well-known hacking groups Scattered Spider, Shiny Hunters, and Lapsus Dollar claimed responsibility for the attack. They're demanding ransom from Salesforce, threatening to leak sensitive data. Like, there is nobody any better at this stuff than Salesforce, right? They've been the gold standard for a lot of these multi-tenant systems forever, and even they're struggling with this problem. So the idea is AI hallucinates and gets things wrong, but so do humans, and so do IT departments, and so does everybody. And then so what? So if you're going to try and find reasons to not engage with this stuff or use it, you'll find them.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to convince yourself that there's sufficient risk here not to go ahead. I just don't know how you square that away in a world that's racing away from you.
The competitive dynamics don't allow it.
Yeah. You don't allow it. There's no way to stop
If your competitor liberates their staff from the bottom 25% of the most mundane, most repetitive, meaninless tasks and deploys that human capital into something more productive and more connected to the revenue, and you don't, ipso facto, you lose.
And I think my point is only that the confidentiality card is no less or greater of a problem than putting your information onto the cloud, Microsoft, or anything else. It's the exact same thing. So this whole thing about confidentiality is a big red herring.
Okay, bro, take us forward.
So I just wanted to say something about some of the numbers that came out of
Quadrillion.
so that Gemini Enterprise event. So I will tell you that Google has scaled their infrastructure side of this. So they're horribly compute constrained as well, but they're managing it really, really well. Because I would say I use Gemini more than I use ChatGPT. It's probably a 70-30 split. I just prefer the outputs, but I really like the consistency. Like, I don't worry that Gemini is going to crap out. I don't worry that it's going to be unbelievably slow. I actually find it to be extremely consistent. It's like consistently good. And what that means is, in the background, they're just doing an amazing job of managing the gymnastics of scaling out the infrastructure and trying to protect their customers from that problem in a way that I don't think ChatGPT is, right? They talk about it in every... Google doesn't come on and go, we're horribly compute constrained. If only we had 10 times more compute. They just come on and go, look at this cool thing we built. You should use it. Mm-hmm. In some interviews, Sam's actually trying to discourage people from using ChatGPT. Like, we don't have the compute. Just
Sora,
give us a minute to update the compute. So in that keynote for Gemini Enterprise, one of the first slides they showed was how Google's token production, the amount of tokens they produce, has increased on a scale. And I would love to tell you it's a hockey stick, but it's not a hockey stick, because the hockey stick would
infers that there's a curve to it.
There's some kind of horizontal axis to it. There's no.
It's a vertical
It's
line.
a fucking rocket launch.
Yeah.
So they're now producing one or delivering one across all their surfaces, including AI overviews, AI mode and search, Gemini, 1.3 quadrillion tokens a month. That's 500. So billion is remember all the analogies about how to try and explain how much a billion was to people. Well, we now need to do one to try and explain what a quadrillion is. It's 500 million tokens a second. Every second.
I thought you were going to do some. If you line up jelly beans around the solar system
go
and
to
3
Mars
times
and
around
back.
the moon.
No, it's crazy. It's 500 million tokens a second.
Yeah.
And when we check in a month's time, it's going to be 1.5. And when we check in 3 months after, it's going to be 2.1.
So two companies alone producing 15 quadrillion tokens a year, and all human speech globally is 50 trillion tokens. So we're approaching, probably in 24 months, surpassing all human speech globally combined.
In breaking news, we're just looking at a story here from Tech Radar from 19 minutes ago, which Gemini has now hit 1 billion monthly visits in AI search.
Come on now.
Google's Gemini AI chatbot has achieved explosive growth, reaching over 1 billion monthly visits in September 2025, a staggering 46% increase from the previous month. So in 1 month, they grew usage 46% just in 1 month. So that would make them neck and neck, user base wise, pretty much there with the guys at OpenAI, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Crazy.
So what's the takeaway here? So I'm thinking about the people that might be listening to this, either busy professionals or companies that have only got finite resources to deploy this, with everything bifurcating into its own kind of fully encompassing operating system stroke enterprise models.
No. It's a different measurement. So Gemini hits 1 billion monthly visits compared to ChatGPT with 5.9 billion monthly visits.
So that's monthly visits. No.
So I think the 800 million is daily active users. It's DAUs. This is monthly visits.
Right, okay.
And in that case, for ChatGPT, it's 5.9 billion.
But the point still stands.
But they're taking share, right? So they've went from 6.5% to 13.7% of generative AI Google in 1 month.
Right.
And OpenAI's fell from 87% to 73% of generative AI in 1 month. So there is a bit of a shift happening there. Definitely Google is getting their act together.
It's with all these figures, it's so hard to analyze. Again, from what we saw at the conference, from what we all know from speaking to people, most people at the moment are using any form of AI as basically a glorified Google
search.
And most of them are using the fucking free one, which is the trash Microsoft Copilot. But I'm just thinking of people listening to this, and I know that the question that they're screaming into their speakers just now is, great, everything's bifurcating into their own proprietary clouds. I want to AI enable my business. Who the fuck do I sign up with?
Yeah. And so the answer is, if you only can have one subscription, then you sign up with OpenAI and ChatGPT, because through that subscription, you get access to a half dozen different models that solve different problems.
Plus agent builders.
But honestly, and you get access to Codex, the coding model, but I just don't think a company can afford to be on one model.
Yeah.
I think you've got to have flexibility at the departmental level. I mean, what marketing department wouldn't want to be without Nano Banana at this point?
I think
Like
from
an
more VO3.
indispensable tool for a marketing department.
I think from the things we've talked about again over the weekend at the conference, I've seen this with legal systems. You know, you buy a system, you get locked in, moving off it becomes impossible. But that transition from a Google system to an OpenAI system probably isn't as great as some of those legacy systems. So actually, it's better to get in and use, if you have to move or if you decide to move at a later stage, it's not the uphill battle it would have been 10 years ago.
So that the proprietary stuff inside there, it's the things that would have to be ported across. It's not your prompts. Your prompts will work anywhere. They might work slightly differently on another model, but it's your GPTs that you create and it's your workflows and agents that you create. Those are the things that would manually need to be recreated in a new system.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a brave new world, guys, and I'll tell you what, there's uncertainty, there's danger all around. But as I left people away at the conference, the last thing I said before I walked off stage, the most dangerous position to be in is sucking your thumb.
Doing nothing.
Standing at the water's edge, staring at the fucking 10,000 foot tsunami travelling at Mach 17 towards you, and just glibly staring at the sky and letting it wash over you. You have to get started.
I'll be honest with you, I'm like totally burned out with AI right now.
I know. Even just try to fucking
Because it's just AI all the time. Like, I really don't even want to talk about it for a month.
And that's another episode of the roundtable.
I'm so cooked. I spend all day, every day just researching and watching and using and
listen, burnout's
I'm
real.
completely
Right.
burned out with the subject of AI. I've actually started at night time. Like, my missus is going mad because every time she walks in the room, I'm watching like this engine builder in America, Dave's Autos. He rebuilds engines, and I just sit watching Dave's Autos rebuild engines because I just want to watch something.
Well, I'm glad you've
no
pivoted
fucking
away
AI.
from fucking highly dangerous bulldogs raw feeding chicken feet.
Wrong. It was gorillas eating vegetables.
ASMR gorilla feeding videos.
But it does goes to show the amount of time that it takes to start chewing up all this stuff and spitting out in a manageable form that all of our listeners can actually take.
Oh my
and
God.
take
Yeah.
something from.
So last thing, so Stephen, you were posing the question like, so all this money. So I think the thing everybody's worried about, right? There's all this energy and effort and money going into this thing, but there's not a lot of economic value getting captured and coming back the other way. This whole thing, if you looked at it as the P&L on AI right now is mind-blowingly in the red.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so are we storing up massive future problems, right? Because I think one of the things that the investment community is concerned about is if one of these companies has a wobble and we lose confidence in the future that all this money has went in to create, there's a potential crash coming on the other side of this, right? So I'll let you pick up the story from there, but what are the type of things that you're concerned about?
So I'm going to start by saying, of course, this is not investment advice.
Yes, definitely
and none of
not.
us have any knowledge of the markets.
We don't know anything, we're idiots.
But I'm trying.
Buy Madecoin.
But I'm trying to get my head around, because the obvious thing is to look at the web and to see the crash that followed the dot-com bubble and to say, are we just storing up another dot-com crash? And I think there's a couple of things that come to my mind. First of all, markets are not always rational. So what's happening? This is demand. When demand for something is greater than the supply of something, prices go up. Yep. So what pushes demand? Generally, a number of things. Greed would be the obvious one.
Yeah.
People think that this is going to be worth more tomorrow than it is today. So there's a little bit of that that's obviously always at play. We think there's going to be a profit here. Let's keep buying it. But of course, what happens is the market doesn't necessarily always know when enough is enough. So there's always a potential to both overshoot and to undershoot.
Yep.
I'm going to take the football analogy because I think that's a good one. Look at the top half a dozen clubs not in Scotland, but in the Premiership, for example. Generally, they don't change. They may go up and down, but quality remains. And what we've seen throughout history is the great companies don't go away.
Yeah.
Microsoft has been up, it's been down, and it's up again. Google has been up and down. Amazon's come from nothing. Apple was almost, I remember when the original Apple Macs came out, the original big square cubes,
Yeah.
they were everywhere. And for many years after that, Apple were not to be seen. They're now third largest company in the world, certainly one of the largest companies in the world. So what does that make me think about? It makes me think about these companies. So is there a possibility of a crash? Maybe. But ultimately, I don't think in the long term, any of the major players that we're talking about are going anywhere.
Yeah.
Too well funded, too well capitalized, too well supported, both at the governmental level and at the financial level.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, right? Every one of the big hyperscalers, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, are spending approximately $80 to $100 billion a year building out AI infrastructure right now. Now, if all that went to zero, it would be a bitter pill to swallow. but it wouldn't fundamentally put the companies out of business or damage them in a meaningful way. It would be a big write-off. It would be horrible. But they'd all just continue on, right?
So what that brings me back to is, so ultimately the big players, there's always the little startups. Some of them are going to rise and fall. And that's not only natural, but it's good. Ultimately, you need companies that are not going to succeed.
Creative destruction.
Creative destruction. So that brings us back to is what's the likelihood of a crash? And we've touched on it already today. As we stand at the moment, demand is still high for products. Profit will be great for a foreseeable period of time. NVIDIA have a full order book. There is not going to be any downside in that anytime soon.
Yeah.
Intel are coming on market. All of their products are going to be bought out.
AMD have just signed a massive deal. Yeah.
So in the short term, the infrastructure side, we're seeing the monetization as you've both talked about tonight of the existing models. So all of the things are on an upward trajectory. And it's simply when that upward trajectory is less than the demand trajectory, when greed is bigger than the upward trajectory. And I don't think that's going to diverge anytime soon. I think there will be moments coming up, and I'm sitting there just now, like we've all chatted about, thinking, is it time to sell out? Is it time to liquidate from the market? And I think if you're with the big guys, no, I can't see it in the short to medium
certainly
term.
not in the short term. I mean, there's NVIDIA and every chip maker in the world are going to be able to sell every GPU they can make for years and years and years to come, right? Yeah. Because don't forget, like everybody thinks through current lens. Well, if ChatGPT 5, if we just had 10x more and we could do all these other things with ChatGPT 5, what nobody has even began to think about is, what if we could let ChatGPT 7 work infinitely on a problem?
Yeah.
For every human on the earth.
Cancer,
No, what if it was just your personal problem solver working all day long, solving problems for you, 24 hours a day, consuming all the tokens it could consume?
You would be dead on day one.
And that's what the future is going to look like. And so we've not considered that token consumption is going to go 1,000,000x.
Yeah. The other side of that equation is, of course, the stock market at the moment, particularly the US stock market, is very heavily weighted to the top 7 now. Yeah. And what you're going to see in the remaining companies, which are still a significant part of most people's portfolios, is one of two things. For some companies, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, Photoshop, which is
Adobe,
thank you. Value dropping because of what's happening. But of course, for many companies, we'll see the other side. We're going to see profitability increasing as eventually, and this may take another 12 months yet. The biggest difficulty that we've got with AI at the moment, as we all have discussed, is that the productivity is there. It's not being pushed through to profit yet. Yeah, and the speed of adoption is still slow. There are still going to be people making livings from good old-fashioned technology somewhere in the world in 10 years' time. Someone is still going to be driving a taxi.
Yeah.
But between now and then, 90% of taxi drivers will probably be replaced.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
There is a whole mishmash in the markets, which means there's going to be some bumps in the road. But again, as our friend John would say, it's time in the market, not timing the market.
Yeah. Trading is death, and trading with leverage is death squared. Yeah. Like, just fucking plant your money and forget about it. Yeah.
I think Brad Gerstner on the All In said it really well this week, because a lot of people are making a comparison to the build out of the infrastructure for the internet, where we laid tons of fiber, we dug the streets up, we put a gazillion miles of fiber in the street, but then there wasn't enough internet usage to actually use or saturate even remotely. And that fiber lay dead in the ground for years and years and years and years to come. And people often use that as a comparison to where we are with the infrastructure build. Oh my God, we laid all the black fiber and that caused the internet, and that caused the crash, the internet crash or the .com bust. We're doing the same with AI. We're laying all this infrastructure, but the difference is there is no unused GPUs.
Black fiber was dead in the ground.
It was dead in the ground. There was no demand for it. It was just lying there, whereas there's demand for every GPU that can be racked for the foreseeable future.
And there's not a finite demand or finite need for AI, because we're already seeing as AI is improving,
Yeah.
our ability to solve problems like energy.
New problems, yeah.
Well, absolutely. So effectively, all that's going to happen is there should be an exponential growth in human knowledge and hopefully an exponential growth in problems that we can resolve.
I think a better parallel, if people wanted to take some comfort, is they see the headline numbers. There's 500 billion, 700 billion, a trillion getting spent in it, and it just sounds like we've taken the entire GDP and we've dumped it into AI. That's not really happened, right? The truth is the US will spend about 2% of GDP on AI infrastructure this year. To put that into perspective, the railways, back in the 19th century when the Brits built out the railway, there were many, many, many years in a row where we consecutively spent 7% of GDP building out the railways. So there's nothing unprecedented happening here. We've done way wackier things in the past. Do we agree that hundreds of years later, the railways were a good investment, that they've been fully saturated? Yeah. But it was probably...
Until the Hyperloop.
all the bubble people were probably saying that back then as well. Oh my God, the finance people, all this money we put in the railways, nobody will ever use it.
And that's before we even start to, we'll not go into it tonight, I'm sure, but build in robotics, which is coming shortly down the line after that. And so it goes on and so it goes on. So I think in the short... the change is coming. There's going to be some bumps and some grinds in the road. There's going to be some frights. But the reality of it is, for productivity and profitability, which is what's going to drive the markets, in the longer term, you can't see anything but them moving forward. Will sentiment change at some point? Yeah, sure, sentiment will change. Things will happen. People will get scared. Was it the Sage of Omaha used to say, be greedy when other people are fearful and be fearful when other people are
Exactly.
greedy.
That's a good note to end it on there, guys. Don't worry. That's it for another episode of the Roundtable Rethink. Don't worry about Paddy. We'll put him into the garden with his AI robotic lawnmower for a couple of days, get him G'd back up about AI, and then put him back behind the microphone. But we are going to try and make it a bit more of a regular thing over the next few weeks. Even if I have to dial in from my 14th holiday of the year in Tenerife in November, we'll do that, but we'll try and make it a bit more of a regular thing. And just
I'm looking forward to the getting to the end of the year and looking back at what our predictions from 12 months ago. And it's going to be an incredible...
I am already so ridiculously in the lead, it's a fucking joke, like. But that's another episode. Okay, guys.
All right, folks, like, subscribe, share. Please, please, please.
Yeah, we do this for fuck all. The least you can do is subscribe and like and leave a lovely review for us. Yeah. And send us
That's
100 quid.
Mr. Miserable Bastards
In a prepaid envelope too.
All right. Love you loads. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.